We are back, and now we are going to discuss the actual contract portion of buying. So, welcome back to Wine About Real Estate. This is part two to the buying process. We talked about what you need to do before, and now we're going to talk about the actual process of buying. So, we actually have a printed contract we're going to talk about really quick. The first things first, there obviously is some disclosures that are a part of the purchase agreement. So
Always.
Start with those, which is the agency disclosure.
We have, as I have candy in my mouth.
Yeah, we got chocolate to go with the wine. You know, you can't go wrong that way.
So that is one of the very first pages you see when we send over the contract. Well, actually, in the buying process, at some point, maybe before you buy the house or during the, okay, I'm ready to make an offer, is the real estate agency disclosure. That's saying you and I have a relationship. You want me to be your realtor. You trust and love me. Love you too. And you say, yeah, please represent me. And then there's a couple other advisories about possibly there might be more than one realtor representing you. That's pretty rare, but it does happen.
Right.
And fair housing and discrimination advisory about what your rights are and
no discriminating, that kind of stuff.
I mean, those are typically what you're going to see in the first 3 pages or the first few pages of the residential purchase agreement,
which RPA.
Right. Yeah. RPA. So now that we kind of got that away, let's do a deep dive into the contract.
Yeah, let's just go over it kind of almost
line by line, but
we can do line by line. So like it literally is just going to go from the offer form, and it's going to talk about the property address, where exactly it's in, the county, the parcel number, which it's like literally down to the lot number as to where that home was built. And then it goes back into agency disclosure. I know it sounds redundant, but it is clarified over and over throughout the contract process. And then it goes all the way down to the purchase price, what you're going to offer for that home, the close of escrow date. Now you can pick, I want it to close 15 days or 20 days or 30 days after the close of escrow, or you can pick the exact date. I want to close on December 31st.
Yeah, because that's a lucky number or something. I've had somebody do that. I had somebody actually close on a certain date because that was their favorite number.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, whatever floats your boat. I don't care.
Yeah, there's some people out there, their religions actually pick what day of the week that they can close on. So they specifically go on the calendar and they pick what day they want.
Because you can't, and by the way, you can't close on a weekend.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that title companies are not open. The county's not open on weekends. So all those people that make the closing process happen, it's not going to happen.
No. So Saturdays and Sundays and holidays,
not going
to happen. Always extended a day to the next business day.
Yeah.
So also, typically, what are you seeing with buyers and their close of escrow dates? I'm typically writing 30 days.
30 days is average, I would say. Average, right? Unless somebody has cash. Then we're seeing, a 15-day close, maybe a 21-day.
And the only reason that takes so long is because title and escrow has to make sure all the paperwork is in order, the money is wired. I mean, shoot, like.
Plus, it gives the buyer the
time for the inspection period. And all that, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But other than that, sometimes people are just like, can we close tomorrow? And you're like, well, there's a process.
Yeah, here's my money, now close now. And it's like, well,
we can't
really we would love to help you do that. It doesn't work that way.
Right, yeah. There's other people involved, which brings me to how many different people are involved in the residential purchase? How many different people besides the realtor and besides the lender?
We have title.
We have title and escrow.
You have the county because they have to record it.
Right. Then we have inspectors.
Yes.
And
appraisers.
Notary.
Yeah.
And then, is that it? I'm pretty sure that's it. But all of those people are involved in this one transaction. Yes, it is true. Our face is the first face you see, and our face will more than likely be the last face you see.
Especially when we're holding your keys at the front door.
Right. That's the best part. I love it. So I love closing day.
Yeah.
And here's the thing with that is the realtor is here to help orchestrate all of that.
Mm-hmm.
and to make sure everything goes smoothly and all the jobs are being done in a timely manner.
Yeah.
Because in the contract, if you say 30-day close, that's what everybody depends on.
Right.
30 days. So
Yeah. The
you,
lender's counting
yep.
on that. The title company's
Mm-hmm.
counting on that. Everybody from the appraisers to the inspectors, everybody's counting on that 30 days. So all of the information they're giving out is for that 30-day process.
Right. And so, and our job is to make sure everything stays on track and goes as planned.
Yes.
So, anyhow, so let's talk about the expiration of the offer.
Oh.
So, a lot of my clients don't put an expiration date.
Yeah,
Some do.
I typically don't unless it's in that aggressive market where we see
Mm,
multiple offers and
mm.
it was like a buyer frenzy.
Like, I want to know by 2 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, then I've seen it where we've done a 24 hours. Like, give me a response within 24 hours. We're not going to play games. I need to know.
Right.
And we're just not in that market right now. So I don't
Typically,
see it happening as often currently.
and typically, an expiration of offer is 3 days. You have 3 days to
Yes.
respond. The the seller has 3 days to respond to the buyer's offer.
Correct.
So, and then the initial deposit amount, otherwise known as
EMD.
earnest money deposit. Let's get into that.
Yeah, a lot of people are not aware what that EMD, earnest money deposit, is. It is literally your way of saying, I'm serious, this is my offer, and I'm willing to back it with this deposit to open escrow to get
Hold
this
my place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, I'm in, and here's my money to prove it. Did you know that when you put your earnest money deposit in, meaning when you go to the bank, you transfer the money typically into title and escrow's bank account.
Yes.
They hold it for you.
Right.
And while they're holding it for you, let's say something happens and the offer falls apart.
Okay.
You will have the title and escrow company does return that earnest money deposit within 10 to 14 business days, typically. Sometimes it's sooner.
Right.
Sometimes I think they can cut a check for them and they can pick it up.
Right.
I'm not a title and escrow officer, so I'm not really sure how all the ins and
I
outs
think it
work.
depends on the title company themselves.
True.
Because I've also seen certain title companies where, like, if they do a wire, they have to wait 3 days to verify. And this is a buyer wiring the EMD in.
Mm-hmm.
They have to wait 3 days to verify that money's in there. And
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some title companies that can verify that money's in there within minutes of it
That's
happening.
true.
So I think it just depends on the actual title company.
And there's 3 different ways you can turn in your earnest money deposit.
Mm-hmm.
One, which is the most popular way, it's the most convenient way, I should say, and the most popular. However, there's a lot of advisories and a lot of I can't think of the word. A lot of caution is the wire transfer, and they do have a disclosure and an advisory that in your offer packet.
Well, it's in your disclosures,
Yep.
it's in the contract, and
Yep.
then the title company will also send you an advisory as well. Because wire fraud is something that unfortunately is becoming more and more common these days.
Mm-hmm.
Technology has come a long way. And it's something that a lot of people need to be aware of. You need to verify that you're putting that money in the right account. And I mean, that goes even if you're just transferring money to your kid in the bank account.
Sure.
You want to make sure you're putting that money in the right place.
So how do I go about that? Good question. So what I typically do with my clients when they're going to do wire transfer, I ask them to leave me off of the email, privately email my clients. The reason I ask them to leave me off is because that's where most of the stolen information gets. They are posing as me and saying I'm asking. Okay. So I ask them to leave me off. I have the title company directly contact my client through email with all the wiring instructions. Then when my client is either about to do the wire transfer through their bank, like physically walk in the bank and do it, or do it online, I have them call the title company. They call the title company and verify the routing numbers and the banking numbers and making sure they match up. Then I say, you could proceed. I always tell my clients to just take that extra step.
Yeah, I think
to
that's the
protect them.
best way to do it. I
I,
normally step out of it because I don't want any part. I don't want to take the check. I know that they
oh,
can, real estate agents can take your check and drop
and
it off, but I don't want that part of it. I don't
no,
want to have to keep a log and do all of that.
neither do
Go
I.
directly to the title company and
Yes,
take care of that.
that yeah. So that's another way Candace was explaining that you can actually write a check and physically walk it into the title company and hand it to them,
Yeah.
or money order.
Or money order.
Yeah. So
So
I
we
hope
got through the
for
EMD.
yeah earnest money deposit. I hope. Oh my gosh, the line!
Oh,
Yay!
you know, another thing
Yeah,
while we're still on EMD too is what is the typical EMD amount? Because most of the time we see people do 1%.
yeah,
1% of the purchase price. If you want to be really aggressive and back to that market where it was a buyer frenzy and we have all these multiple offers, I've seen people that were buying a $300,000 home that would put in 5 to 10,000 in that
right.
EMD because at the end of the day that money goes towards closing cost.
Yes, it does. It
So
all goes toward. Yes, you're right.
yeah,
Thank you for bringing that up because yes, that earnest money deposit goes towards what you owe at the end of the transaction in regards to the down payment and or the closing costs.
right.
Good point. So, and there's misconception too. When you write the offer and your offer gets accepted, the earnest money deposits due within 3 days of your offer being accepted,
Yeah.
and that is it. No other money is due at that time.
Right. Not until
Not till the end of the transaction.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think that they have to give the down payment then.
Right.
So I've had those questions asked too, which
yeah.
I mean, before I got into this business, I thought so too. I didn't know.
If you've never bought a home, those are questions that most people don't think about.
No. So the earnest money deposit, and oh, you know what some people do? They increase their earnest money deposit. Like what I was doing when there was really aggressive market, so we would put 1% within 3 days, and then I would mark in the contract after the inspection period that I would give them either another 1, 3, or 5%. So that way they knew, hey,
Like
if
we're serious.
yeah, we're really serious. We really want this house, and it shows that we, as the buyer at that time, were willing to put it on the line.
Nice.
Which you get it back, but still, it's a kind of go the distance kind of thing for a seller to see.
Yeah.
So now that we have the deposits all squared away.
Yeah, and we just talked about the increased deposit.
Mm-hmm. So the loan amount.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So obviously you have your initial deposit and your down payment, all of those things. When you're getting your pre-approval is actually going to break down the loan amount as far as how much has to come out of your pocket versus what the loan is going to actually cover.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the bigger picture that we're really trying to discuss here is you have a title company that you open escrow with,
right?
That EMD in there. Then you have your closing costs, and the rest of that money that facilitates that escrow account is that loan amount.
Right.
And now that info, all those numbers are going to be based off of your purchase price, your deposits, and your closing cost amount, and then how much you're pre-approved for. And that loan amount is going to be coming from your lender, whether you have a VA, an FHA, conventional, or whatever type of loan
right.
it is.
Right. And yes, so your loan amount is minus the down payment. So let's say you're buying a house for 300,000 and you have 50,000 down. So your loan amount is going to be 250,000.
Yep.
Because you're putting 50,000 down.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. So, and it also asks occupancy type. So the most on the contract, they want to know if you're going to occupy the home or this is an investment.
Right.
So that's an easy.
Are you going to live in it or not?
Not right. It's pretty simple. And then balance of down payment. So it's the earnest money deposit.
Mm-hmm.
Then you put your loan payment
mm-hmm.
or the loan amount down. And then the balance of down payment is, so if it's 50,000 and you put 5,000 down on your earnest money deposit, in the down payment section, it will say 15. Because remember, we said the earnest money deposit goes towards your down payment.
Right.
So then it says purchase price total. Then it adds all that up, and then you get right back to your purchase price.
Yeah, what you submitted in the offer.
Right.
That The 300,000 analogy that she used.
Right.
That 300,000 total number.
Then earnest money deposit, which is 5.
Mm-hmm.
Then your down payment, which is 50,000. So then you owe 15,000 for the balance of your down payment and the total purchase price again. All that adds back up to 300,000.
There you go.
Yep. Okay, so let's turn over and go on to the next. So
seller credit. I mean,
well, we've been seeing that.
We have been seeing that, especially with the inventory the way it is. There are some homes that, either they want to sell really, really fast. It really depends on the seller's strategy. There's many different strategies out there to sell. So if they're wanting to sell it fast, they'll put, the listing price at a reasonable thing, and you'll see in the agent notes that, we're offering 5,000 concession or 10,000 concession. And what that means is the seller's willing to put a credit in your closing costs so that you can close on the home, and you can use that closing cost towards the actual closing cost itself instead of putting your full 50,000 down, or you can use it in your loan and buy down your interest rate.
Yeah. There's been all kinds of creative ways right now because of the interest rates,
right.
The 2-to-1 buy downs.
Yeah, those are really popular right now.
Yeah, and that's where the seller credit would go, saying, okay, so the seller is willing to give me a certain amount of money to buy down my interest rate, and for however long period, whatever period of time that particular program is offering. Also, with the seller credit, that's where you as the buyer can just ask for it.
Yeah,
you can ask for your closing costs.
You can always ask
up to
for
3% of the purchase price. I've seen people ask for 3% towards of the purchase price towards their closing costs.
Yeah.
Or ask for the whole closing costs. It all depends. It's all individual to you, to the house, to the seller. Every paperwork is the same, but every transaction is different.
Completely different.
Right?
Yeah. It all depends on what goes on the contract. And I mean, it's not for every situation. There's going to be some sellers out there that are going to tell you flat out, no, I'm not willing to do that. It's not going to help me, because they're probably in the same situation where they have to sell this to buy the next.
Right.
But maybe they are an investor and they just want to be out of it. And so they're like, okay, I'll give the credit.
And that's, again, where your realtor is very, very helpful, because they're going to find out those things for you before they write the offer. So then how about verification of down payment and closing costs? So basically, when you turn in your offer, when you turn in your purchase agreement, and you're presenting, you have to show proof of funds.
Yeah, so you would either have a bank statement with your closing cost amount that you say that you have saved up, and then you would just need your pre-approval letter as well, so that it just shows here a lender is willing to lend me this, and these are the funds that I'm showing that I'm going to be able to close with. And that's your sandwich that you submit together.
I like that. And there's your bologna.
Yeah.
Okay, and so and you're saying that you're going to get that to them within 3 days of the contract being accepted.
Yeah, I mean, that's the typical requirement, but I think,
most people submit it with their offer.
Most of the time, especially I think here in California, in our area, it's typical to submit it with your offer. It's just the seriousness and just trying to move things along faster.
Right, and especially if you have multiple buyers, you're going to want to see all of, who's most qualified or who is qualified, because anybody can submit an offer, but if they're not qualified or show proof that they're qualified, then why are you wasting your time even looking at the offer?
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you sat down with a seller and there's multiple offers in front of you, but there's only one or two of them that have the full proof of funds and the verification and their pre-approval, all of that information is there.
Right.
To a seller and to the agent, I think it's more appealing, those people that have it all together when it's presented.
Right, and it's way better presented when you look very well organized when you do that. At least I try to be that way, and other agents, I appreciate it when other agents do it, when all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. It makes it very easy for us to make decisions, or
absolutely.
I shouldn't say us, help the seller make decisions.
Right.
Because it's every black and white right there. Anyway, so loans. So what do we do with that part?
So the loan is
contingency.
Yeah. So with the loan contingency, you're going to want to make sure that the appraisal's already been done. And that the appraisal has been returned back to the lender and that those boxes are checked. You're also going to want to make sure that the underwriting department has completely fully underwritten that loan, that every single little step to that loan requirement, because maybe they looked into that buyer's past and there was an outstanding credit card that hadn't been paid or something. Those little details that the lender is going to deep dive in when they go to underwriting, that making sure everything has passed, and that yeah, they're ready to submit the loan amount to the title company and that it's ready to go. So if your lender's completely underwritten, there's no other checks box to check,
Right.
then yeah, that you're verified that the loan is completely ready to go, and
And
it's
that's
just
typically the last contingencies us as a buyer's agent would remove,
right.
because that's if your loan is the contingencies of your loan is being removed, that means you're 100% ready to go and you're ready to sign. And
Absolutely.
the lender said you're good to go. You can remove the contingency.
Yeah, you want that verification from the specific lender. You're not
Yeah.
going to take a buyer's word. You're not going to take title and escrow saying we should be okay. It
No,
should come
directly
directly
from
from
the
the lender,
lender.
agent to the lender, making that phone call and making sure it's done.
It's all written off, ready to go, 100%
Yeah,
golden.
absolutely.
Yeah. So the
Um,
appraisal
yeah,
contingency.
the appraisal contingency is pretty basic, straightforward. An appraiser is going to go out there. That typically happens within 17 days of an accepted offer.
Oh my God. Remember when it was all crazy? It was, oh my God, it was so hard to get a appraiser.
You're talking about COVID times?
Well, not just so much COVID, but just this not last year, but the year before, I guess. It was just so hard because they were so busy.
Yeah.
It was so hard to get an appraisal back within
Well,
even 10 days.
I think the craziness for me, because like when I first got into the industry, we never really had any issues with appraisers or any of that. But when I first started seeing the craziness happen was COVID. I remember being in a contract that was supposed to only be 30 days and it ended up being 12 weeks. And
Whoa.
I mean, that was because it literally happened in the middle of COVID. Everybody shut
Oh,
down. We
well, that
can't
makes
go
sense.
nowhere. And appraisers at that time were literally just driving by the property. They weren't getting out of their
Well, they
vehicle
couldn't
because
go
they
in there,
couldn't.
huh?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
couldn't. So it would take so much longer for an appraisal report. And then I think once the market opened back up after that, we saw a huge buying frenzy because we couldn't at the time. Nobody could go anywhere or do anything, and then open back up. And these appraisers just had stacks and stacks of work that it was like they could only
We were
do
at their
so many
mercy.
they could only do so many in a
Oh my
day.
God, and the
So
fees got so expensive
well, yeah,
just to hire an appraiser.
yeah,
Like, I mean, and by the way, the buyer pays for the appraisal, and the appraisal is ordered by your lender. Lender is not allowed to have any contact with the appraiser
right,
at all.
right,
It's not allowed.
yeah.
So we all know what happened in 2008. Okay, so our next one is the investigation of property information, access to the property. This is your inspection period.
Yeah, that's that real deep dive inspections. That's where
That's typically where you start once you get into contract, right?
Yeah, you're going to want that home inspection, pest inspection, all those inspections that are required for that specific property. Mm-hmm. And you're going to want to do them right away because it can take, depending on what inspector you use, you can get it back within 24 hours, but I've seen it, 72 hours sometimes before you get the report.
Right, but then you look at the reports and then maybe there's something else that needs to be further investigated.
Yeah.
So you want to, that for me and how I conduct my business, that's the first thing I do.
Yeah.
Earnest money deposit, inspections.
Yeah. I mean, because most of the time you are looking at stuff as far as title, making sure title's clear before you even put an offer.
This is
but
true.
I mean, you still have that 17 days to look at stuff like that too. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't looked at it beforehand, that's when it would be investigated. I'm trying to think, what else can we look at that we would want to do other than just home inspections?
Well, okay, so for instance, let's say you're buying a country property.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to want a septic inspection. Mm-hmm. Not only that, let me just say, I've suggested it doesn't have, and again, the buyer typically pays for the inspections, okay, you guys. However, everything's negotiable.
Everything.
And not only that, let's say that there's a septic and it's never been pumped. You might want to ask the buyer or the seller to pump their septic.
Yeah,
before you move in. That way you have a fresh septic tank.
I think honestly that's probably the best thing to do. And when we go into the deep dive on how to prep a home for a sale and working with
Yeah,
sellers, we'll talk more about that. But yeah, that's something definitely with country properties. You would want to
septic.
ask for that. If it
Yeah,
hasn't been pumped already, please
a
pump it because they typically get pumped every,
couple years.
well, they say 10. It depends on how well you take care of it because
And
I've
how many
seen,
people are in the house?
yeah,
Okay, because I live on country property with a
same.
septic, and my husband and I think we do it every 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, but you guys got 3 teenagers that are. So, because like my family, we lived on our property for 30 years, and last year was the first time.
No kidding.
Yeah, the first
I
time in
guess you
30
didn't.
years.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
But again, it
There's
just
barely anybody
depends.
there.
It depends on the size. It depends on how long. It depends on your usage. It also depends on what you're using too, because
Here's
a lot
here's
of people use
something.
bleach, and if you have a septic tank,
You can't
bleach
do that.
kills all the good bacteria that
Yeah,
works like that. It's a whole
but you
ecosystem in
should.
there.
Yeah, you should not be pouring bleach down your septic.
Well, I think a lot of people use it to clean like their toilets and their sinks, and
Oh, I thought you meant
people
like
love to use
okay.
bleach, which I don't disagree with. I want a clean house,
Yeah, you
but
do you.
be really careful what goes into your septic.
This is true. This is true. And okay, that brings up a well. I have a
Mm,
well also.
yeah.
So you want to do a well inspection. You want to make sure that the gallons per minute
Yes.
are running it where they need to be, and uh, that's tip top shape. So when I've done country property, and like I said, I live on country property. Those are the two things that I always advise. I advise all inspections. I'm just saying those are the other two that I would go above and beyond on.
I think another thing too that was brought to my attention in the last couple of
Mm-hmm.
years is testing the water itself too.
Mm.
A lot of people are not aware. So, for example, we live really close to agriculture and we
Mm-hmm.
live really, really close, less than a mile away from the river. And I was
Ah,
talking to a guy who does wells and septics and he does the testing for him. And he was talking about people that live so close to a river don't realize that the river runoff, it actually can dilute.
contaminate
Yeah, it can
or
dilute into your well. So that some of that
well, I
water
guess
may
that
be
makes
from
sense.
your rivers that are nearby, and if there's any kind of
That's
bacterias
gross.
or anything like that, there's a possibility it's in your well. So,
Yay.
and I mean, you can always go and
It's
have
free.
treatment.
You know it's free to get your water tested.
Right.
You just you put a little vial of water in and you can take it up to the water district and they'll test it for you for free. Or you can buy a water testing kit.
Yeah. They're
I
very
mean,
simple.
yeah, I mean, I remember when I helped somebody buy on a country property, we did. We tested their water. It took a couple days. We sent it away when we did their well test and got it back, and everything was fine.
Yeah.
But then you know your peace of mind.
Yeah. So you have that 17 days
Yep.
after you put the
Yep.
contract in, your EMD, do your investigations.
All your disclosures,
Oh, yeah.
all the seller documentation, like we discussed in the disclosures, the TDS, transfer disclosure statement, the seller property questionnaire. That's where the seller tells you everything and anything they know about the property. They have to disclose it.
Right.
And you have a certain amount of time to review those documents and sign off on them.
Mm-hmm.
What time of possession? Typically, the time of possession means when you're gonna get your keys and take over the home. Basically, when you're gonna take possession. Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't understand. They think that, oh, it's the day of closing. I'm getting my keys
Not
today.
always,
Like,
though.
this is going to happen. Like, they wake up and they call their realtor, hey, it's closing day. When do I get my keys? And it's like, well, we have to wait.
For it to
We have to
record.
wait for it to record with the county, and we have to wait for the title company to verify that everything's been settled.
You're right.
So once title has verified with the county and title's settled their accounts and they give us the green light, then that's fine. But we also need to make sure what's marked in the contract too, because a lot of people don't realize
Yep.
it's either at 6 p.m. that day or at the official record.
Right.
And I want to give my keys at official record.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? That's very typical.
Mm-hmm.
Most sellers are already moved out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're done. They're like on to their next adventure. They're like,
yeah, it's very, very rare that you find a seller sitting on the couch watching a football game, being like, you know what, we closed today, but I gotta watch the rest of this game.
Beer.
Yeah, come on in. It's your house. Let's drink at your house before I move out.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
Yeah.
Hi, Bob. How's it going?
It's not unheard of, though.
That's why you never take possession of the home before you close. You always want to make sure it's recorded into your name and it's yours 100%,
Yes,
because then you
absolutely.
officially own it then.
Yeah.
So on here too is seller occupied or vacant units and occupied units by tenants. So if this is an investment property, then you state that, who the occupants are, the tenants, and then you go through that whole motion of, all of their rents and all of that verification. And this is the time when you would go through that as well if it's an investment property.
Right.
So that's page 1, 2.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information.
Don't worry, there's only, 15, 16 pages.
Right. Well, this whole entire package is 26 pages, just to let you know. But it's needed. So, and we're not covering all 26 pages. We're just highlighting some of the things on the residential purchase agreement that we feel is significant and that should be explained further.
Right.
Okay, so next is items included.
Yeah, that's really important. Now, sometimes all of that information can actually be found on the MLS, because the agent's already told you. But some of it, maybe it needs to be negotiated. I had a buyer one time. We're walking the property. She falls in love with it. She also wants the patio furniture.
Oh, yeah.
Because of this
or the tractor.
Yeah. Some people on country property that want those tractors and the equipment to go with it. So there's this whole section here in the RPA, Registered Purchase Agreement, where you can ask for those items to be included as well.
So this is the part where you would put in, leave the stove, leave the microwave, leave the washer, leave the dryer, leave so sometimes seller goes, okay, furniture is included. I had that on one. Furniture is included, and then we had to specifically write out all the furniture that was included. Then everybody needed an initial it and agree to it.
Right.
However, we're not furniture people. We're not really supposed to be involved in that part of it.
No, because it's more personal property at that point. And
exactly. This is more or less like the appliances and things.
Right.
Yeah, and just so you know, one thing that we one of the disclosures and one of the inspection periods, I know I'm going backwards, but the big thing today is solar.
Oh yeah, we see that. Now anything built in California has to have it.
Solar.
So we see it more and more common nowadays.
And here's the thing. Some solar companies, and this is another part to when you're doing your purchase agreement, some solar companies require you to be pre-approved with their company, and it all has to coincide with your purchase price.
Absolutely.
Not all of them, but some of them are like that. Some of them are just really easy transferable. Oh, you want to take over the payment? Go ahead. It's all individual to that solar company and how they work and how they transfer. Yeah. But solar is a really big thing now in California.
Well, yeah, because I can remember, on certain contracts where sometimes they want to purchase it and they want to buy it and own it outright, or maybe they just want to lease it,
or they write to pay off the balance of the solar in the purchase agreement.
Yes.
So then at the end of escrow, when escrow closes, they pay off the solar.
Yes.
So, or the seller's willing to pay it off with their funds from their proceeds from selling the home. So all of that goes in the contract too. Sorry, I kind of did like a little rewind because I meant to bring it up the solar, but I just remember now. So now we have smoke alarms and natural hazard disclosures. The natural hazard disclosures, you can find that information on our previous video.
Yeah.
We went into a little bit more detail about that. Smoke alarms, COT detectors, water heating, bracing, all of that has to be put in before that appraiser gets there, because it will be marked that they're not.
Yeah, and you don't want them to mark it, especially for a simple thing as a heater, a water heater bracing. They have to literally flag it, put it in the report, submit it, and then you have to reschedule everything. There's a reinspection fee.
And your loan will not close until the appraiser signs off on it.
Absolutely.
So make sure when maybe the buyer and or seller or whatever you're walking through, your agent's asking that the selling agent, hey, is your water heater braced? Is your CO2 detectors and smoke alarms up? And a really cool thing about that, a lot of them nowadays there's tankless water heaters, so you don't even have to worry about that.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if everyone can go to that, but there's so many houses
Yeah,
that with
there's
the
so many
regular
that have
water
switched
heaters.
over now.
So, and then how about the escrow fee and owner's title insurance policy? You want to talk about those?
Yeah, so escrow fee is just, the escrow company is the one that's managing all of this. They're a third party in between the buyer and the seller. They're in between the agents. They don't represent either
Nope.
side. They
They're
have to
neutral party.
yeah, very neutral in between. They have to have a written agreement, which is what our contracts are for, before they can do anything in the escrow accounts.
Yep.
It has to be agreed upon by the seller. It has to be agreed upon by the buyer before the escrow people can do anything. So there
Yep.
is an escrow fee for holding an escrow account.
Right.
And those fees will already be put together on a net sheet. Your agent will probably get that requested for you, whether you're the buyer or the seller.
Yeah, you can ask for a net sheet anytime.
Yes. Yes.
So you kind of get an idea of what you're paying. And then the owner's title insurance policy, every loan has to have an insurance policy. Homeowners, well, a policy stating that you're taking over that home, and that's what that fee covers.
Right.
That's in the title and escrow. So title, you're taking over that title. You have to pay that fee. Well, not you, but sometimes it's split. Sometimes it's paid by the seller. Sometimes paid by the buyer. It all depends.
Right. It depends on what boxes are checked on your RPA.
And then there's county and city transfer taxes and private fee transfer taxes.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the area for a lot of those.
Like Sacramento, I believe, has a county transfer tax.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Placer County does. I don't believe Yuba or Sutter does.
No.
El Dorado Hills, I think, might. However, you find all that out on your net sheet when you ask title and escrow. What are those fees? And then there's sometimes in Sun City, Roseville, I believe, there's a private fee transfer fee. And that would go under that. I believe it's a tax fee when you transfer from one owner to another in that community. And that's that retirement community. They charge a fee to transfer from one owner to another. That was done within their system.
Right. So it's just specifically to that community.
To Sun City. So things like that will come up. And those are good questions to ask. What are the city tax? What are the county tax?
Yeah.
Private transfer fees, like I was just talking about.
Right.
And then the home warranty.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, let's back up a minute. HOA. Only if that pertains to you.
Again, yeah, that's only going to be pertaining to certain communities. Yep. I mean, it's really popular out here in Placer County. There's tons of HOAs in certain areas, like Sun City.
Sun City has an HOA.
There's
a park.
Yep, and there's brand new communities like Turkey Creek at Esplanade. They all have HOAs up there.
Some are $80, some are $250.
Yeah,
you don't know.
You want to definitely look into those.
What happens with that is it's the HOA. There's a fee to prepare the documents to transfer one owner to another.
Right.
And those typically get paid by the seller because they typically paid for them when they got into the house.
Yeah.
So all those documents have to be prepared. The HOA has to gather all that information and transfer all that information over to the new owner, and that all costs money.
Yeah, the other thing too to bring up while we're on HOA is a lot of people forget that the HOA has to approve the person moving into the community too before the actual close of escrow happens, because it's very rare that people are denied. But it's still a process
that might have to
people should be aware of.
But I think that applies a lot to mobile homes.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because the mobile, and that's not, I guess that's an HOA, but it's a mobile home park manager. When you're dealing with mobile home parks, yeah, they have to approve the buyer before the buyer is even allowed to purchase. It's crazy. So home warranty.
Yeah, so home warranties, it is completely optional. However, you definitely want them, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. It's, going to help you with all of those little maintenance things that a lot of people forget about. You move into your house and your refrigerator stops working, or the ice maker busts, or the heating and air goes out.
You can always ask the seller to pay for your first year.
Yeah, you can always ask the seller to credit for a home warranty for 1 year.
I always suggest to get one just for peace of mind, and then I always get the upgraded one.
Yes.
go above and beyond. The most expensive one, and the reason why I say that is because typically, if anything's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong in the first year. Not saying it's going to. It's just insurances, and then when you buy the upgraded version of the home warranty with whatever home warranty company you want to go with, and there's several, and
Yes.
your realtor can suggest some to you as well, but you can find them really easily. When you do the upgraded home warranty, the fee is smaller for them to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes there's no fee at all
Right,
because you
depending on
paid
what
the
package you
upgraded.
get
Yeah.
or what company you're with. Yeah, most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, even if the home has a pool or certain things, you just want to make sure you're researching and finding a home warranty cover company that covers things like that.
And let's just back up for a second that you bring
Okay.
up a pool.
Okay, like it.
Okay, during your inspection period, that's when you want to do a pool inspection too.
Oh yeah.
On the pool equipment. Just there's most pool people, most pool men, cleaners, they do inspections on all pools too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that was a little bit ago when we talked about it, but whatever.
Yeah,
Just
but there's always so much to talk about.
I know. And so then the rest of the residential purchase agreement is basically everything that we talked about, just broken down into different sections and really goes into detail about every little section you're signing, all the verbiage, all the definitions,
Yeah.
everything and anything It's a lot of realtor jargon
Yeah.
that maybe you don't understand, and it breaks it all down so that way you're fully aware of everything and anything that could happen.
Right.
Or yeah, and so then, and of course, and the rest of this is talks about too, if you don't stick to your timelines, the buyer and or seller, depending on who wants to stick to the timeline, maybe they say, hey, I'm going to send you a notice to perform. That means that you have X amount of days to get
Typically, it's
to
three.
Get it together.
Typically, it's 3. If
Yeah,
you're given a notice to perform an NTP, you have 3 days, and usually you want to move on whatever they're giving the notice to perform for. It could be you didn't submit your EMD within the 3 days you were supposed to. And
Right.
so they're giving you a notice to perform, which means you have 3 more days. Get that money in there, or we're canceling, or we're moving on to the next deal.
Right.
It could be that you didn't remove a contingency.
Right. And stuff gets overlooked sometimes.
Yeah.
Stuff happens. However, yeah, notice of forms are rarely used.
Yeah.
I've had them happen at, not to me, but like in my transaction. And I've submitted some. Yeah. But that's just to keep it going along and keeping everything,
right,
stable and keeping timelines.
Absolutely.
So that's the end part of the RPA is a lot of real estate talk, breaks down all the definitions, breaks down all the verbiage of everything we just talked about. And then the other 2 parts that you're going to find is your advisory on your investigation period and your appraisal act addendum, just letting you know what's involved in those and what your rights are. And the seller gets those too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, what else you have to say about the residential purchase agreement?
That's all I can think of right now.
It's a lot.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about that I'm sure that there's even more that we probably didn't even touch on that, to us is probably basic everyday stuff. So
yeah, I was just trying to think like a buyer, and go, okay, what if I was a buyer and I didn't know about it? Like, what would I want to know? Again, your real estate professional is there to help you every step of the way. I have literally read line for line the contracts to my clients before, because there's some people that really want to know what every little thing is, which is perfectly fine. You're making a huge purchase.
Yeah,
I would want to know. I want to be educated on everything I'm signing.
It's probably the biggest financial decision that somebody's going to make in their lifetime. It's more than a car. It's more than a truck. It's more than your boat. Well, maybe not as much as yachts, but
yeah. Well, who can afford it?
If you can afford a yacht, you probably have an even more expensive multi-million-dollar
and you
home.
probably buy your house cash.
Right.
So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed our episode of the residential purchase agreement. And again, um, if you need to know what you need to do before you even get to the residential purchase agreement, our other video was on our pre-checklist of pre-buying
Yeah,
checklist,
on
our
what to
pre-buying
do
checklist.
to get there. So,
Yeah. Well, we have enjoyed speaking with you today. Thank you for joining us on
wine
Wine About
about
Real
real
Estate.
estate. Till next time, guys. Thank you guys very much. And we appreciate the likes, the shares, the follows,
Yes.
as well as the comments. Feel free to let us know what you guys want to see coming up on some further episodes or any
Yeah.
questions that you guys might want answered.
Happy holidays, everybody. Thank you.